that's how I,
So does that mean that everybody that volunteers at the storehouse has their license, or how's that working?
No.
if
because
somebody
I-
wants to work, if somebody wants to work at the storehouse, they have to be a licensed operator, usually a general class.
Not to just volunteer, they don't. Not to volunteer at the storehouse itself.
No.
Yeah.
If you want to work in the storehouse radio room,
Right,
Okay,
Right.
okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay,
usually, and then they have operators go in there, and they'll be talking to those of us in the various stakes and say, okay, Debbie, what do you folks need over at your place? And Carol, what do you need at your place?
Yeah.
And so forth. But you can't get involved in this program unless you are a licensed operator or working on it. You guys are all involved. I don't know if you know it or not, but you are. But anyway, I have a question for you tonight. I'd like you to tell me what priorities we ought to set on this. Number one, there's a group of men in Massachusetts, and we're on chapter 6. There's a group of men in Massachusetts and another group in California. And they have been talking for about 6 months about the technical capabilities of doing a moon bounce. This has never been done before. And they have built equipment and antennas and so forth. They've been involved in this for about 6 months, and they've spent over $100,000. Now, the other side of the coin is that your daughter or daughter-in-law had a baby yesterday. She's about to call you and give you all the details, but it's at the same time and frequency that the guys want to do the moon bounce. Which one should have priority?
she should.
Okay. I've been teaching this for about 15 years with that question, and I always get the same answer, Carol. Why do you think that is?
Because they can play around with their moon bounce anytime they want, but a new baby comes, that's a big deal.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yep.
Actually, we don't have to worry about this kind of a problem. Let me have you turn over to 6-2.
1 sec. Oh, fighting the cat here. 6-2. Yeah, you're not that. Okay,
Okay, you see at the bottom of there, figure 6-1.
Yeah,
Okay, every band has a band plan. That plan tells, in a general kind of way, there's no official law behind it, but it's kind of a, excuse the expression, gentleman's agreement of how the band will be used. You see at the very top of that, 144.00 and 144.05. That is for moon bounces, EME.
okay, Bob, when you leaned over like that, it's hard to hear you. You're past the speaker.
I apologize.
That's okay.
We're
Uh,
on number 6, what?
6-2,
6-2, thank you.
yeah, 6-1 is the table. And you see all down the thing there are different purposes for the band in question. And all the way up and down there, there's different things like, well, 144.200 to 144.275, general's sideband operation. So that's where your daughter or daughter-in-law is going to call you.
They're going to be down on the miscellaneous experimental one.
No, that's where the moon bounce people will be.
Right, okay.
So we don't have a problem of two different people wanting the same frequency as much as you might think. When I'm doing certain kinds of work, I'm going to be in certain places. You see the SSB calling frequency. Okay, I want to talk to Greg, so I will go on that frequency, and he knows I'll be there, and he'll be listening. And when I call Greg, then when we make contact, we will then go down to the next one down is the single sideband general operations. So what we do is we say, what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be experimenting. I'm just going to be talking. I'm going to go on nets, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. There is some place on that band where that function is supported. That's why we don't have to worry about grandmothers and moon bounces competing at the same frequency, because they're very different kinds of operations. Every band in the amateur bands has a band plan. Some of them are very loose, some of them are tight. It all depends on what kind of traffic is being done on those different bands. So we don't have to worry about if grandma's going to get the message. We know grandma is important, and we are going to make sure that that message gets through. Guys with the moon bounce, well, they can wait. But that's what band plans do, is it tells you, I'm going to be here doing this kind of work, and you're going to be over there doing this other kind, and we won't get in each other's way. So if you go on the internet and write band plan for 80 meters, 40 meters of different bands, you can get a copy of what each band is designed to have. So you'll be able to do that. Like I say, it's not a legal type of a situation. Anybody who needs to can vary it. In emergencies, we're not too careful about, well, I'm not doing what's supposed to be done here, but I'm going to get this emergency message out. That's more important than did I violate somebody's idea of the band plan.
Okay.
In fact, to be perfectly honest with you, if somebody knows how to get a radio turned on, does not have a license, but they know how to turn a radio on and make a call, they are perfectly willing, able to do that legally in an emergency. Now, an emergency is not my pizza is late, but something, for example, if we knew about a forest fire that was coming and we saw it and nobody else had seen it yet, that would be the kind of emergency we talk about. Okay, making a contact. Has anybody read this that I can ask you, what do you do when you're going to make a contact?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, I read it, but I can't remember all I know is you have to make sure you identify yourself frequently, and you have to use whatever that particular languages of the letters.
The phonetic alphabet.
Yeah, to make sure that they know who you are, and then you verify who you're listening to. And then if you're interrupting another person's conversation, you are to back off until they're done.
Right.
It's basically what I got out of that.
Okay, the very first thing you do is you listen. Is there anything going on this particular piece of the band? Just from listening. Then you come on, when you've determined that that's not the case, you come on and you said, is this frequency in use? Now, let's suppose, Debbie, that you're talking to somebody in another part of the country. Their signal's not getting to me. It's getting to you, but not to me. So if they're talking at that moment, I won't hear you because you're not talking, and I won't hear them because they're too far away. So when I'm going to go on the air, is this frequency in use? Now, if you're listening to somebody and you're close enough to hear my question, you should say, yes, we're using this, please do it somewhere else. And it's very simple to do that, just turn the knob. But you don't want to interfere with anybody unless, of course, you're dealing with an absolute emergency, and then you call Mayday. If you hear a Mayday, that whatever else is going on, that should go away, because we're having an emergency, and so we're going to take over the frequency. So listen, ask if the frequency is in use, and then proceed to make your calls. If I'm calling somebody else, I would say, okay, give their call sign. Give it again. Give it 3 times. This is, or DE, whichever way you like. And then you give your call sign. The reason you do it that way is I'm going to hear my own call sign before I'll hear someone else's. So I want to talk to you. I'm going to give your call sign and give it enough time. Have you ever had a time when you're watching television or something, you're not kind of paying attention, and they say something and you wish you'd heard that? That's why we give call signs 3 times. Because if you're not really paying attention, you'll miss it altogether. My call sign is Alpha Delta 7 India Lima. To a lot of people in the world, that is my last name.
It's up as
So-
high as it'll go.
So remember that, and if you hear me AD7IL, Bob in Coos Bay, you'll know who you're talking to. No other ham in the world has that call sign. And then when when Greg hears my call sign, he gives his call sign and says, this is his call sign, go ahead. And then we start talking about whatever it is we talk about. Remember the things we have to do. First, listen. Second, is this frequency in use? Because you may be only able to hear one end of the conversation, which is not going on at this time. It's going on from the other side. Then this is AD7IL, or maybe somebody's calling you. So this is AD7IL. I'll go ahead. But if I'm calling out, I'm going to say somebody else's call sign, DE 87IL. At that point, when he recognizes that I'm calling him, then we begin our conversation. Does everybody understand what we're doing and why we're doing it?
Yep. I actually get
Okay.
this part.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Well,
this was making sense. I know when I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, I understand what it's saying.
You'll find that this part of the book, from here on out, it's a lot easier than the Ohm's law and things that we've been having trouble with. I'm proud of you, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with me long enough to get this far, even if some of us are cats. I don't see him up here. Is he's doing something else?
Oh, Rufus, he's in the bedroom asleep. He
Oh,
had his dinner, now he's taking his nap.
okay, well,
It's on the table right below me, so you probably can't see him, but he's right here in front of me.
well, I still remind you, the cats can't take the test.
I know, he's really disappointed about that.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll figure something else out. Anyway, when you make a repeater contact, and this is what beginners usually spend a lot of their time on, you hit the repeater frequency and it will click over. You'll hear it give its identification.
In the refrigerator.
And then you give your call sign. If it's a net, for example, and I'm the net control, I say, okay, everybody from Florence, check in. And Carol will give me her call sign. I'll say, okay, Carol, there you are. And after a while, you get to know these call signs like you get to know their last names. But you go down, you wait for the net control to call on you after you identify yourself. This is 87IL, Bob and Cuspe, is my identification. And then the net control will say, well, I didn't get that call sign or whatever. And maybe we have to go back over that, but you once you're identified, he's got you in the net, and he will call on you when it's your time to talk. If you have something really urgent, it's break, because maybe you've got something that's an emergency that's going on that you need to report. Debbie, have you frozen up again? Or are you still over there?
No, I'm just listening
Okay.
and petting the kitty cat.
Okay. Well, those things are very important.
Yep.
Do you understand what I'm saying about getting the attention of the net control officer or net control person so that you will not step on other people?
Well, that's it. It sounds like, yeah, they don't want you being rude. I understand that. Yeah.
Well, one thing is, let's say you and I both speak at the same time. The radio will get one of us and it'll go into the net control. You won't hear the other one. So we have to be sure that everybody who wants to check in has a chance to do it.
Well, Bob, Bob, it wouldn't be much different than what we're doing right now. If two of us try to talk right now, you're not getting either one of us clear.
No, but I can hear both of you. I can't hear one of the two when I'm net control.
Okay.
The radio will only either receive or transmit. You can't get it to do both. And if you and I both hit the go button at the same time, it's kind of nobody knows who's going to actually come out, but only one of us will.
Isn't that what you say, breaker, breaker?
Breaker is something that's usually given in case of a real emergency. I know that particular phrase comes from CB,
Yeah.
but if I say break, that means to the net control guy, I have something that is extremely urgent. My house is on fire. We're having a flood, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It just that you say break. If you say it twice, that's wow, I have got a real big thing going on here. And CBers sometimes get a little excited about that. But if you say break once, that means, hey, you missed me on the check-in, or is this the right net, or something like that. If I say break, then that's we got a real big emergency here, and you've got to give me some time to explain it to you.
Okay.
I don't want to say anything bad about CBers. There's enough bad stuff about them already said, but they don't have the same, I'm going to say ethics, customs.
Or restrictions.
Yeah, they don't have any restrictions.
Yeah.
If you listen to CB in some areas, you get your ears spray painted.
Yep.
And in fact, that's one of the reasons people stop going to CB. There's a lot of racial stuff going on there, and you don't know who's listening. It could be children or something like that. And if somebody starts coming off with some of this hardcore stuff, I don't want my kids hearing that. So then I'm going to turn my CB off, which means it's no use to me.
Well, it's not only children, but we used to run CBs all the time and it was fun. Now it's just filth and garbage and I don't want to listen to it. Don't want to be a part of it.
Absolutely. But you understand why going through this part about getting a license and learning what's going on is going to prevent people from coming in and treating this like it was CB.
Yeah.
We're earning our right to be here and to do things. So we're going to respect it a little bit more. At least that's the hope.
Well, no, I'm also under the understanding that if somebody is using profanity, et cetera, they can have their license removed.
Not if they're CB, because they don't have a
No.
license.
No, but I'm talking about for us as a ham radio operator, if somebody is using obscenities all the time, can't they have their license revoked versus a CB? It's a different story.
Yeah. I don't know if you can have your license revoked, but you can get a note from the FCC, which means when it comes around time for you to renew your license, we might not.
Yeah, okay.
I have never heard of anybody losing their license because of profanity, but it's certainly suggested.
Okay.
Bob, are there problems with people who are not licensed who have a radio and get
Yeah.
on there?
Yes. I just read in one of my new magazines that just came in, people in stores are getting 2-meter rigs and using them as handhelds to talk about, I'm over here in this part of the store and I need to have something over there. Conversation among staff of a store. There's a couple of logging companies up in Washington State that have installed CB equipment, or not CB, but 2-meter equipment. And they're using it in the logging operations. Now, if the people who are using it have a license, that's okay. But if they don't, you're breaking the law. And I've never heard of anybody going to jail for more than 3 years. And I've never heard of anybody going to jail or being fined more than $250,000. But those are significant to me.
Yeah.
You know,
A mere pittance.
hey, well, I'll give them your name when they drag me in. The idea is, if we're going to have this ability to talk like this, we need to be ladies and gentlemen. And that's not a real challenge for most of us. There are people who won't get a license and they can go to jail. They can be fined. I've met several of them and they'll never catch me. Don't ever say that to a federal government agency. They'll make a career out of it. Okay, now we're going to talk about when you give a signal report. All right, signal reports are something that you give to the other guy. I'm hearing you 5, 5, 5, 5 by 5, or something like that. A 5 is wide open. I can hear you like it's the telephone. 4 is white noise in the background, maybe a little hash there. Mobile flutter. When you're driving, it's like you're shooting it through a picket fence, and sometimes it comes through and sometimes it doesn't. Dropping off is where I can't hear you at all. And broken up or breaking up, maybe I'm getting 1 word in 3. This is all laid out on 6-5. You can look at that again, but I need to know how my signal is reaching you. If I can't get my signal out at all, I'm 1 or below, we can't communicate. I can't make you understand what I'm trying to say, and maybe you can't hear, or maybe I can't hear you. Those sort of things, you need to look for another way to get it through. For example, I'll send it to another operator and they'll send it to you by relay. I remember a case where I was here in Bandon, and the next town up the road is Sixes. And I was trying to reach a guy in Sixes and I couldn't do it. One word in it through. We were on a net. And the guy said, okay, I can hear both stations. Give me the message and I'll pass it on for you. Fine. I gave it to him and he passed it on. It was accurately transmitted and we made the contact we needed to make. So I said to our benefactor, thank you very much for that, friend. And where are you located? I'm in Bremerton, Washington. Okay.
Okay,
Reasons that I don't understand and never will. I couldn't reach Sixes from Bandon. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. It's about 10 miles.
yeah,
Yeah.
But the guy in Bremerton heard us both clearly. I don't know why that is. That's atmospherics. That's stuff we haven't covered yet, but it's just the signals are bouncing around and sometimes they get through and sometimes they don't.
Well, maybe you had to go to Bremerton to get around the Cascades.
Maybe. But anyway, you'll find that it's very, very easy to have those problems. I remember a guy I heard, and he was in Texas, and he just bought a new radio, and he wanted his friend in Wisconsin to tell him out what the signal was like, but he couldn't get through. I can tell you that the signal that was coming to me in Colorado was 5x5. It was absolutely no problem with that at all. I don't know why he couldn't get Wisconsin. Maybe the guy wasn't even home. This is stuff that happens. So when people say, and they will, how far can you reach on your radio? Yeah. Today I'm doing pretty good. Last week I wasn't doing so good. And you'll have a log book that says that you got Guam and you got the Philippines and you got England and you got all these countries way far away, but you didn't do so good on Coos County because you were on the wrong frequency or there was something going on. So you can get as far as you can get today. And tomorrow we'll see.
so do we have a pill, Bob, for when this happens, we can just calm down?
Well, either that or find somebody to relay for you,
Yeah,
because there's always, if you're on a net, there's always other people listening. And you just sort of say, okay, I can't get through to him, but I'll get through to her and she'll pass it on. That's what operating is all about. It's part of the challenge. If you could get through every time, it wouldn't be near as much fun. Okay, you sound like you're doubting me there. Okay, now I'm going to talk about simplex. We talked about repeaters and we'll go into that in depth here in a little bit. But simplex is when I'm talking to you, there's nothing between us except the antennas of our radios. Straight across. And simplex is a very good way to meet people, particularly if you want to stay off repeaters, because repeaters sometimes get nets set up around them. But anyway, simplex is straight across. Single sideband. Have we talked about single sideband before?
a little bit.
Okay. Let me just get my pencil here and I'll review it for you. A radio sets out a carrier wave. And that has no information on it. It's just a wave. All you can tell is that my radio is on. Then on that carrier wave, we load what our message is. And whatever the voice or code or whatever it's going to be, whatever that is, it's going to be there. Well, that's using up, that's 3 separate waves that are going out. One is above the carrier wave, one is below. So we want that signal to go out as far as we can. So we take off one of these, and the carrier wave and the remaining wave go up. It's going out, it's a stronger signal. And we take off this one. And what's left is catching all 3 of those signals, the power behind it. So it's going up, and it's really a strong signal as opposed to what it was originally. So that is single sideband. You're taking one of the sidebands and eliminating it, taking the carrier wave off, and all the power that was pushing those is now pushing the one sideband that you have left. And so that's a more powerful signal.
Are you doing that, Bob, by tuning?
No, it's done by the radio automatically. You don't do anything. You just put it on SSB.
Oh, okay, okay.
And it will do that automatically. And you'll see it in a book. They have SSB, and then they have full AM. AM is both the carrier waves, both of the sidebands. You may think, well, then you're only hearing part of what's said. But you remember this is moving back and forth at 60 times a second. So you won't notice that you're not hearing part of it. Okay?
I think so.
Okay. If everybody knows what a single sideband is, I'll go on to the rest of this. Okay. Where am I? Simplex, and then we go on to single sideband, CW, which is Morse code, and digital modes. Now, I think we talked a little about digital, but that's where you translate it into a code or a something, and that goes out. And those kind of contacts, you're going through a repeater or you're going through something else. How do you respond to a station that's calling your call sign on single sideband? We already asked Debbie, so we'll ask somebody else. This is AD7IL. That's how you answer it. You give it your call sign. You know the frequency is not in use, or it's not in use by anybody except you and your partner. So you don't have to go through that. You just say, this is 87IL, or whatever your call sign is. Hello, Greg, or whoever's calling you. So that's how we do that. Now, back in the days of Morse code, we developed some what we call Q signals. They're real fast ways of saying something. In fact, this is how a lot of people who don't speak the same language can talk to each other. On 6-8, we have some of the various ones here. QST, who's calling me? Who's calling me? QST. If you put a question mark after it, then you have, you make it a question. If you don't do it, you have simply a statement. QTH. If I want to know where you live, John, and I say call sign QTH question mark. Where are you? Where do you live? What's your base of operations? That's the way you say it real fast. These letters are set up this way so they can be transmitted real fast on Morse code. And it's still being used. I've heard of people having hour-long conversations using QST. They don't speak the same language, but they both speak ham. And so I'll say QST, my name is Bob. QTH, I live in Coos Bay, Oregon. And that's how the conversation will go. I've heard about Japanese operators talking to American operators, neither of which spoke the other's language. And they can talk for hours that way because they know all the Q codes. You will not be required to learn the Q codes, but you should know what they are and start picking them up. For example, one of them is QRP. That means I'm transmitting at a low power. You've heard about the radios that only put out 5 watts or less. Okay, those are QRP radios, just automatically. If I want to talk to somebody on a QRP radio, I'll put out CQ, 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 QRP, QRP, QRP. And that means I want to talk to somebody who's on Morse code, giving me those little signals and see how far we can reach. If you look at these, you can tell over time, you'll pick up what they all mean. QRN. I'm having trouble with naturally occurring interference, maybe static or something like that. QRM. I'm having trouble with another radio station or something like that that's on the signal between you and me. So we have trouble with that. And you bring this into your conversation because it makes things much faster. If you're doing a lot of work with people who don't speak our language, they understand it. Okay, video. Do you all know that you're able to send video over a technician license? Some people will do their own home movies and put them on the radio. You cannot send,
There's no cameras on the radios.
well, you have to have your own camera, like the one that's on the radio right now, or on the television right now that you and I are looking at. So it's something that you put into the radio after you.
Oh, okay, so you can add a camera is what you're saying. Okay, okay.
The camera, it will come probably somewhere around your computer, and then that will be transmitted in to the radio. And you'll have visual and audio. It's not something that's real easy to do that you can spend 20 cents and get it done. But at the same time, it's nice to know it's there. What you can't do is if you got a copyrighted movie, you can't send it out over the air. You don't have the copyright material, copyright. for that.
Oh, okay. So if you make a home movie of your own, yes, but you can't a different one. Okay,
Right, right.
that makes sense. Okay.
And anyway, sometimes you can do it if it's old enough. For example, movies that you maybe get on YouTube and they're made in World War II. Okay, that is something that you might be able to send over. But I'd really like to send my own stuff over rather than something that I picked up somewhere. Nobody can come back on me for my own stuff. And there's some stuff here about video. I'm not going to go into it for a great deal because I simply don't know it. I haven't ever done it, but I know that it's legal on a technician license. You just have to have control of the copyrights for the material. Now I'm going to talk to you about repeaters. This is probably the most important for you because this is where you're going to start talking to other people. And I am on 6-10. Talks about finding repeaters. If you go to the internet and write Oregon ham radio repeaters, you can print out pages of where they are located. It looks kind of like the one here on figure 6-1 on the top of 611.
Which number?
6.1 on page number 611. Top of the page there has a whole bunch of,
Oh, okay.
you see the call sign, because each repeater is going to have its own call sign. And it has its frequency. Now, with 2-meter rigs, and this is what most people in your time in radio are going to be getting. The transmit and receive are on different points of the thing. So when you have your radio all set to receive, let's say we're going to do 146.610, which is the radio at the Beaver Hill repeater, one that very commonly used in this area. Okay, that is a minus. So when you hit the transmit button, the frequency that you're working on falls down, and it's 146.010. So it goes down 6 kilowatts. Anyway, it could also go up depending on how the program is set into the repeater. If you see a minus, that's because it goes down. And if you have a plus, it goes up above what the calling frequency is. When you have that established, some repeaters are property of clubs, and they may be a little hinky about who they allow on. So they'll put a subaudible tone. You'll never hear this tone, but when that tone gets there, it will open the repeater for you. And on this one here, access, the line after the pluses and minuses is access, and that's the tone that you will program into your repeater or into your radio, and anytime it calls that, it will send that code at the same time. You'll never hear it, you don't have to think about it, but when it sends that, it will let you into the repeater and you can be heard by everybody who's listening. After that, it says the coordinator. It could be a person's name or it could be a club, and it's just whoever owns the repeater. Now, has anybody got questions on that? When I hear a lot of silence, and I wonder.
I'm still processing it.
Me too.
Well, you need two things to know other than the repeaters where it's located. The frequency that's given is the calling frequency. And I want to call that particular repeater. Now, when I call, I'm going to be up or I'm going to be below the signal that's written there. Plus or the minus tells you that. Okay. And the next one is the subaudible tones, which you also put in. I can't tell you how it's done because every radio is a little different. But when you put that in, it's sort of like a key that will let you in the door. And you can get onto the repeater and talk to the people who are there.
So to put it in plain English, like a password?
Yes,
Okay. I got that.
but there's a thing here on 6-11 about the offset and the shift. And like I say, it just changes the thing. Now, standard repeater offsets. I'm on table 6.3 on 612. 612. You see 2 meters is plus or minus 600 kilohertz. Goes up or down from the calling frequency. Now, some of these, I've never seen a 10-meter repeater, but there's some out there, and they're always minus 100 for the offset. 6 meters is a different kind, depends on the region you're in. But you'll learn from using the repeaters which ones these are going to be. With 2 meters, it can be up or down. With the others, some are up and some are down, or some are straight on. But that gets you so you're sending into that repeater, and then the code, the subaudible tone, will allow you. It opens the door for you. Now, sometimes you get repeaters that are not linked to anything else. In other words, when I go on that repeater, it'll send out a signal all around where I am, but it doesn't go anywhere else except that one repeater. Sometimes they link them. What that is let's say we wanted to be able to talk to folks in Gold Beach. We might send it to one of our repeaters, which sends it on to one of their repeaters. And that's set up by the people who are controlling the repeaters. A question?
Nope. Clear my throat.
Okay. This can be a good thing or a bad thing. I remember up in Washington State, they wanted all the repeaters to work so that they could call directly from Boise to Seattle. And they had repeaters all along the way. And it worked fine if that's what you wanted to do. But if you were in the middle somewhere, like Moses Lake, and you hit the repeater, it would open up going both directions. So you're in Moses Lake, you want to talk to somebody who's nearby, and you hit that, you've opened up every repeater between Boise and Seattle. And everybody can hear whatever you're saying. They decided after a very short time that that wasn't a good idea. And they reprogrammed the repeaters. You cannot call on 2 meters from Boise to Seattle. But you also don't have a lot of people listening in and things like that. So it depends on what you want. What the people who are putting the antenna and the system up, do they want to be able to reach out, or do they want to just keep it local? And then if you're reaching out, how far out do you want to go? Did I see a hand, Miss Debbie?
No, sorry, I was scratching.
You get to do that. You get to do that.
I know when you're sitting in a class, you never scratch because somebody thinks you're raising your hands.
Yeah.
You don't
Well,
want
I
to do
would-
that. Don't want
No.
to do that at an auction either.
Right.
No.
You might buy a horse.
Well, a friend of my mother's bought a piano that way.
No,
Yep.
geez.
Anyway, do you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these repeaters? They take the signal that you send it and then send it out to a whole lot of people. If you're far away and your signal is not very strong, you go through a repeater and everybody can hear it because the repeater is usually sending out more than you are. But if you read over this, I'm sure you'll be able to get it. It's not difficult once you understand that a repeater simply takes what you're sending to it and sends it out again. It repeats whatever you got. Well, that's about all I have for tonight, unless somebody has questions.
So where are we? I had only read up until 6-9 this week. So are we finishing chapter 6 for next week?
We went up to 612.
Oh, okay. See, I wasn't here last week, so I missed what we were doing. Okay. And so what are we doing? So next week, the class is Monday night. And so what are we doing? All of chapter 7, or tell me what
Oh,
we're up
no, we're going to finish at chapter 6.
to. Okay, just finish it. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's
Usually what I
Monday.
try to, what I try to do, Debbie, is I try to give you a half a chapter every time.
Okay.
There's 9 chapters, so that's, it works out to about 16 weeks to get through the whole thing.
Okay. Now, Monday nights, are we having our class at the 6:30 class time or the 7 o'clock time we usually do on Monday nights?
I can do either one. So whatever everyone prefers is fine with me.
6:30
Yeah, it
works for
doesn't
me.
matter to me.
Yeah, I like 6:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do
Is that going
6:30
to be
then.
Zoom or is that going to be in person?
Zoom. In person next week is going to be our potluck
All right.
And it's at
Well,
4 o'clock.
on Tuesday. Yeah, but no class that day, so it'll be a shorter potluck.
Right.
Find some under the key.
Yeah, we're working on the key. Does that work for you, John, to be there with the key?
Yep.
Okay.
So
Okay,
that's-
Greg, what do we, did you decide what we're doing for dessert?
Not yet. I'm debating whether to do flan,
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
which would be really nice.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
haven't
Oh,
flan.
okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. it's Yummy.
I've only
Okay.
made it a few times, and so I'm debating whether or not to make it. But there's that. I'm also thinking of doing a blueberry trifle and have some fun with that.
What kind of trifle?
Blueberry.
Oh.
And ladies, it seems like we have so many main courses. Somebody just gave me a zucchini. I was gonna do a zucchini bread. Is that gonna be enough or do I need to have a main course too? It seems like we always have plenty of food.
I'd say do the zucchini bread. That'd be fantastic.
I thought I was
Yeah.
just thinking at the end of the garden season, it would be fun to make a zucchini bread. Okay.
hmm
Well, I think I'm gonna try a pasta salad this time, but when I do those, I put everything but the kitchen sink in there, so it's a main meal.
No, there was a chemistry professor in LeGrand at the university that I knew, and she was from Italy, and she did this wonderful pasta salad where you would make the spiral pasta, and then as it was still warm, you drizzle a little olive oil, dice some tomatoes, put some tomato in and some olives in, and then feta cheese, crumbled feta cheese,
Oh,
and stir it up, and you would serve it warm. And it was really, really good.
well, I put chicken in one of mine one time with some artichoke hearts and
Mhm,
that then went with kind of a vinaigrette dressing and it was really good.
mhm.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Both do.
I don't
That's the
really-
beauty of
Both sound
pasta
good.
salads. They're so versatile.
We all getting hungry?
I was gonna say, I already ate dinner, but you're making me hungry.
Eh,
Well, I have not, so I'm gonna have broccoli salad tonight. Okay, good lesson, guys.
Yeah, but everybody, we'll see you Monday night at 6:30 instead of 7. Okay, got it.
Okay,
Yep.
good
See you guys
good
later.
night. Good night.